Morning. How are you? Good morning, everybody. Hi. Good morning. Very good morning to you all. Today we'll start what we had left earlier. Come to page number 67. Government initiatives and schemes. Good morning, everyone. Come to page number 67. We had done till this appointment parts, principal secretary to prime minister, then cabinet secretary, then CEO of IBM, if you remember. Today we are starting with government initiatives and schemes. Come to page number 67. I hope all of you must have downloaded this PDF on current affairs from the website of ICSI. It's available there. Yeah, it's page number 67 now. Shall we start? Okay. It's 9:14. Shall we wait for one more minute? Since the official time is 9:15, so let everybody join this session. So in the meantime, how's your preparation going on? Are you keeping yourself updated on day-to-day basis? That's very, very important. Good, Ritika. Okay. Okay, good. Garima. Am I audible to you all? Am I audible? Yes. If to some I'm not audible, then please check the network quality at your place, please. Okay. Out of you all, is there anybody who had joined my last class also on current affairs? Is there anybody? Who's that? Okay. The last session I took for current affairs. Okay. So you come again. You were there. Okay. Because some names were familiar, so I just thought you were there. Okay, good. You were there. Okay, good, good. So good. You're doing your revision. Okay. You were there, Falguni. Yes, I remember the name. And Astha was also there. Is Astha there? Okay. Stop your audio. Stop your audio. Stop your audio, please. Anna, I beg you. Please stop your audios. Yeah, some voice is there. I don't know whose it is. Stop your audios, please. Otherwise, we won't be able to proceed. Stop your audios, please. Stop your audios, please. Yes. This background music is not from my side, guys. Yes, thank you. Please keep your audios turned off. Yeah. Today we are starting with government initiatives and schemes. Please come to page number 67. Have you opened? Okay, good. Then the first is national policy on official statistics. There are certain government initiatives or schemes in Union Budget 2020. Budget, when it was announced in February, March, it was announced Budget 2020. Every year, it is being announced in February last week, right? So in Union Budget 2020, some initiative schemes were introduced by the government. First was National Policy on Official Statistics. This was a policy, this was a roadmap actually uh, for the data collection, modernized data collection, integrated information portal, and timely dissemination of information. So this policy was on collection of some statistical data, right? Then integrated information portal and timely dissemination of information. Page number 67. Please come to page number 67. Have you opened page number 67? Okay. National policy on official statistics to collect some data, modernized data, integrated information portal, and timely dissemination of information. This national policy on official statistics, this scheme was brought throughout the country to enable firms to skillfully incorporate data in every step of their value chains. This was for the firms to incorporate data in every step of their value chains. Value chains, what is value chain? What is value chain? Can anybody tell what is value chain? It's a chain actually of suppliers, customers, government agencies, all the people who are connected with you for successful conducting your business, right? That is the value chain. They are the suppliers, they are the transporters, they are the investors, they are the customers. This is the value chain. So to have a modernized data at their place, this policy was initiated or scheme was brought. It lays down a roadmap towards modernized data collection, integrated information portal, timely dissemination of information. What is dissemination? Releasing of information. This policy enables private sector to build data center parks, throughout the country and enable firms to skillfully incorporate data in every step of their value chain. This is to enable the private sector companies, corporations to build data collection parks. Why? To skillfully incorporate data in every step of their value chain. So this was basically for collection of data. This policy was brought for collection of data and dissemination of timely information for the private sector organizations so that they can incorporate skillfully that data which is collected, and they have a on a doorstep, they have information at their doorstep they can use for their endeavors. Second is national logistic policy. policy is to create a single window e-logistic market and will focus on generation of employment, skill, making MSMEs competitive. So what is logistics? What do you understand by logistics? What do you understand by logistics? Goods, couriers, transporting. Very, very good. See, all the agencies, uh, all the support that is needed to produce or manufacture the goods, support like transportation, packaging, supplies, social security, warehousing, these all are the logistic support. Without this support, see, this is not enough that one person is manufacturing at the factory and if he does that, that is enough. No. For manufacturing of a product, to make it a final product, you need a lot of help of a lot of people, right? You need raw material, then you need suppliers of raw material, then to transport that from the place of origin to the factory, you need transportation, you need packaging, you need electricity, you need water, you need social security, you need warehousing facility also to keep the goods, right? So all these facilities, they are the logistics, they are the support for uh, making the final good reach to the ultimate consumer, from factory to ultimate consumer. These are all are the support you need. They are called the logistics. So to create a single window e-logistic market, this national logistic policy will, what will it do? It will focus on on generation of employment, skill, making MSMEs competitive. E-logistics. So they have made a single window e-logistic market. This is a policy. There will be a single window for that. Next is new education policy. See, for new education policy, what it says that to deliver high quality education, you need good and talented teachers, right? You need innovative and better labs. Page number 67. New education policies to deliver higher quality education. You need talented teachers, innovative and better labs, right? So you need greater inflow of finance. You need finance for all that. To attract talented teachers, innovate and better labs, you need finance. So therefore steps would be taken to enable sourcing external commercial borrowings. So steps would be taken to attract foreign direct investment or external commercial borrowings. That is the way to attract the inflow of finance, so that we can give better higher education to the students by talented teachers. So you to if to have better and talented teachers and to have better labs, you need finance. So for the finance, they said that these steps would be taken uh, to enable sourcing external commercial borrowings and foreign direct investment. FDIs they'll be attracting to have better and talented teachers for higher quality education. So this was new education policy. Next is National Skill Development Agency. The name itself clarifies. National Skill Development Agency, agency for developing skill. So to give special thrust means to push to infrastructure focused skill development opportunities. This agency was brought into existence. National Skill Development Agency was brought into existence to give special push or thrust to infrastructure focused skill development opportunities. Infrastructure focused skill development in infrastructure focused projects. This agency was brought into existence. Next is Vivad se Vishwas. Vivad is what? Argument, dispute. dispute to confidence, to trust. Vivad se Vishwas. For those who don't understand Hindi, Vivad is dispute, say is to, Vishwas is trust. From dispute to trust, argument or dispute, whatever. Under this scheme, a taxpayer would be required to pay only the amount of disputed taxes and will get complete waiver of interest and penalty provided he pays by 31st March 2020. What this from dispute to trust or Vivad se Vishwas, that scheme says, under this scheme, taxpayer would be required to pay only the amount of principal taxes, right? The amount of disputed taxes is required to pay just the amount of disputed tax and not any interest or penalty on that. If he pays by 31st March 2020 that amount of disputed tax, if he pays by 31st March 2020, then he will not be required to pay any interest or penalty on and above that disputed tax amount. That was the scheme. But if he pays after 31st March 2020, he'll have to pay some additional amount. The scheme will remain open till June 2020. Okay, this was the scheme of Vivad se Vishwas, or from argument or dispute to trust, Vishwas. You understand that? Under this scheme, any taxpayer, he would be required to pay the amount of disputed tax only and not the amount of interest or penalty on that amount if he pays before 31st March 2020. But if he pays after 31st March 2020, he'll have to pay some additional amount as penalty or interest. Right? Next is new scheme Nirvik. N-I-R-V-I-K, Nirvik. Sorry. What is Nirvik? To boost exports of the country, Nirvik, a new scheme to achieve higher export credit disbursement, has been announced during Union Budget 2020. To boost export of the country, the scheme of Nirvik has been brought into existence to achieve higher export credit disbursement. Means money given for exports, credit given for exports. The scheme was brought Nirvik to boost our exports. It provides for higher insurance coverage. Then how much? What percentage is that? That higher insurance coverage, it's up to 90% of principal amount. You can write that. Under Nirvik has been, new scheme Nirvik has been brought into existence to achieve higher export credit disbursement to boost exports. Under this there will be provided higher insurance coverage, reduction in premium for small exporters, and simplified procedure for claim settlements. Three things would be there. They'll get higher insurance coverage, which would be up to 90% of principal amount. You can write that. Then reduction in premium. The premium they have to pay, that amount would be reduced for small exporters, and simplified procedure for claims will be simplified. This is the new scheme that has been page number 67. How many times shall I tell you? Page number 67. We are on Nirvik scheme. So Nirvik is to boost our exports. Okay, they'll give higher insurance coverage, which will be around 90%, of principal amount. There will be reduction in the premium amount, and procedure for claim settlement would be simplified. The scheme expected to support export of around 30 lakh crore by the end of fifth year. You can mark this line. The scheme is expected to support export of around 30 lakh crore by the end of fifth year. So you must remember NIRVIK is for boosting exports. These are the bullet points. You have to please write those bullet points on the side of this paragraph. Just make some bullet points. NIRVIK to boost exports. They will give higher insurance coverage, less premium, credit settlement at easier conditions. 90% insurance coverage they will be. That is enough. Okay. Next is National Technical Textile Mission. National Technical Textile. What is technical textile? It is proposed to set up with 4-year implementation period from 2021 to 23-24. This next National Technical Textile Mission, it is proposed to be set up with a 4-year implementation period 2021 to 23-24. 4 साल में within 4 years implementation period would be 4 years. Sorry, 2021 to 23-24. Okay, and there is an estimated outlay of 1480 crores to position India as a global leader in technical textiles. To make India global leader in technical textiles, the amount which has been set aside for this is 1480 crore rupees. Now what are technical textiles? Technical textiles, you can write textiles which are manufactured for non-aesthetic purposes. Textiles manufactured for non-aesthetic purposes. Aesthetic is for beautification. Non-aesthetic purposes like automotive applications. You can write if you want. For example, automotive applications, medical textiles, heat, radiation, bulletproof jackets, space suits. These are the technical textiles for which government has set aside 1480 crore rupees for this project to make India a global leader in technical textiles. Okay. Come to page number 68. It's village storage scheme. Village storage scheme to be run by SHGs. What are SHGs? They are self-help groups. Self-help groups to be run by village storage schemes would be run by self-help groups to provide farmers a good holding capacity and reduce their logistics costs. I just explained what logistics are. Everything has a cost. Logistics too have a cost. Transportation, warehousing, rent, and everything. Then electricity. If you have a factory at a very far off place, so the cost increases. So to reduce this cost, village storage scheme has been introduced. It will be run by self-help groups to provide farmers a good holding capacity and reduce their logistic cost. Page 68. Second is women SHGs to regain their position as Dhanya Lakshmi. Women SHGs, those who are women in SHGs, they will regain their position as Dhanya Lakshmi. Woman is already considered as an incarnation of goddess Lakshmi, goddess of wealth. So they'll regain their position as Dhanya Lakshmi. Okay, these are the schemes. Next is government launched Ummeed to tackle inherited genetic diseases. Now, question may be asked: the full form of Ummeed. Full form of Ummeed, that is unique method of management and treatment of inherited disorders. That is Ummeed. You must remember the full form. Unique methods of management and treatment of inherited disorders. That is Ummeed. So, Union Minister for Science and Technology, Earth Sciences and Health and Family Welfare, Dr. Harshvardhan. You must remember the name of Dr. Harshvardhan. He is our health minister. So, because these days he is too much into news. So, who is he? Union Minister for Science Technology. He is the health minister. He has launched Ummeed. Why? What is the objective? Ummeed aims to tackle inherited genetic diseases of newborn babies. It is written there, full form is written there in the paragraph. It is Ummeed is unique method of management, UMM, okay, and treatment of ID inherited disorders. Why this was, what was the aim of Ummeed? This was to tackle inherited genetic diseases in newborn babies. छोटे बच्चों में जो जेनेटिक डिजीजेज आ जाती हैं, इनहेरिटेड डिजीजेज होती हैं, उनको टैकल करने के लिए, टू टैकल दोज इनहेरिटेड डिजीजेस इन न्यूबॉर्न बेबीज, this scheme of Ummeed was brought into light or brought into existence. Okay. Next is Kisan Maan Dhan Yojana. Kisan Maan Dhan Yojana. Those who don't understand this Hindi, I'll translate it for them. Kisan Maan Dhan. Maan Dhan is what? Can anybody translate Maan Dhan? Maan is what? Your honor or respect. Yes, Dhan is your wealth. So, this is actually a pension scheme. So, Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched Kisan Maan Dhan Yojana on 12 September in Ranchi, Jharkhand. The scheme shall secure the lives of 5 crore small and medium marginal farmers by providing a minimum pension of 3,000 per month on attaining the age of 60 years. So, Kisan Maan Dhan Yojana was inaugurated by Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi on 12 September in Jharkhand. The objective of the scheme was to secure the lives of 5 crore small and marginal farmers. what they have to do under this? They'll be giving a pension of rupees 3,000 per month to these farmers on attaining the age of 60 years. So, these farmers who are currently between the age of 18 to 40 years, they can apply for the scheme. Farmers who are between the age of 18 to 40 years, medium, they can apply for the scheme. So, Kisan Maan Dhan Yojana is basically a pension scheme under which 3,000 per month pension would be given to small and 5 crore small and marginal farmers. and people now who are currently between the age of 18 to 40, they can apply for this scheme. Next is, come to page number 69, Pradhan Mantri Laghu Vyapari Man Dhan Scheme. Page number 69, Pradhan Mantri Laghu Vyapari Man Dhan Scheme. Laghu Vyapari means small traders. Again, this is a pension scheme by the government. Scheme came into force on 22nd July 2019. The provisions of this scheme, as the name explains, Laghu Vyapari means small traders. The provision of this scheme shall apply to Laghu Vyaparis, means small traders who are self-employed, working as shop owners, retail traders, rice mill owners, oil mill owners, workshop owners, commission agents, brokers of real estate, owners of small hotels, restaurants, and other Laghu Vyapar. Laghu is small business or small trade. So this again is a pension scheme to be given to Laghu Vyapari. Name is Laghu Vyapari Man Dhan Yojana or scheme. It was brought to light on 22nd day of July 2019. The provisions of this scheme shall apply to Laghu or small traders or Laghu Vyaparis. For example, self-employed and working as shop owners, retail traders, rice mill, oil mill, workshop owners, commission agent, brokers of real estate, owners of small hotels, restaurant, and other Laghu Vyapars. All shopkeepers and self-employed persons as well as retail traders with GST turnover below 1.5 crore and aged between 80 to 40 years can enroll for the scheme. Now, who can enroll for the scheme? All the retail traders, self-employed people, shopkeepers with GST turnover, please mark this line, GST turnover below 1.5 crore, GST turnover below 1.5 crore and aged between 18 to 40 years, they can apply for this pension scheme, Laghu Vyapari Man Dhan scheme. Okay. Next is National Digital Library of India. National Digital Library of India. Digital library. Everything is becoming digital these days. Virtual. This is also virtual classes. This is the new modern, as I have told you earlier too. This is the new modern. Virtual classes, virtual meetings. Politicians are also having virtual meetings. No need. This is no contact, no physical contact. Just keep distance. You must have seen Mr. Amit Shah, Mr. Modi. They are conducting virtual meetings. So, National Digital Library of India, Human Resource Development Minister, HRD Minister, under the National Mission on Education through Information and Communication Technology, NMEICT. National Mission on Education through Information and Communication Technology, NMEICT. They have launched, HRD Ministry has launched the National Digital Library of India project to develop a framework of virtual repository of learning resources with a single window search facility. National Digital Library of India has been launched to develop a framework of virtual repository of learning resources. Repositories, it's like a treasure, खजाना है, पूरा भंडार है उधर, virtual. So you can this with a single window search facility. has been made very simple. Single window has been kept for it. As of now, next line, there are more than 3 crore digital resources available through the National Digital Library, and more than 50 lakh students have registered themselves in the National Digital Library with about 20 lakh active users. Okay. So National Digital Library of India, launched by HRD Ministry to give a single window search facility to the students to access virtual repository of learning. As of now, more than 3 crore digital resources available through National Digital Library. More than 50 lakh students have registered themselves, and 20 lakh there are active users also. Okay. Next is announcement of Jal Jeevan Mission. What is Jal Jeevan Mission? Jal Jeevan Mission, again, it was inaugurated or launched by Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi during his 73rd Independence Day speech. Purpose is to bring piped water to households. Jal Jeevan Mission. The purpose of this mission was to bring piped water to households. Water coming through pipes, that was basically the goal of this mission. Next is NEET Artificial Intelligence Learning Scheme. NEAT. NEET Artificial Intelligence, AI, Artificial Intelligence Learning Scheme. HRD Ministry, again, they launched this scheme. What does NEET, NEAT stand for? You may be asked the full form. NEAT, it's National Education Alliance for Technology. National Education Alliance for Technology, NEAT, NEET, Artificial Intelligence Learning Scheme. HRD Ministry launched this scheme, under which technology will be used for better learning outcomes in higher education. Under which technology would be used for better learning outcomes in higher education. Objective is to use artificial intelligence to make learning more personalized and customized. Artificial intelligence, that day also I discussed. What is artificial intelligence. Yes, this is very in thing. Yes, robotic. Yes, good. To robots. Yeah, yeah. This is a new concept, artificial intelligence. So, NEET was announced, under which technology will be used for better learning outcomes in higher education. Objective is to use artificial intelligence to make learning more personalized and customized. Right? Next is apart from above schemes, government has launched following schemes also. This is partial guarantee scheme, gold monetization scheme, policy reforms for startups. These three schemes also, you can learn the names. Then comes governance and ethics. Governance and ethics. Now, what is governance? First of all, yes, what is governance? We have talked about it many times. Governance, governance, governance. This is a word too much in use to govern, to administer. Yes. What is active? What is governing? To rule. Okay. Okay. Governance is actually administration or command or execution. They are the policies and procedures by which a corporation is controlled and directed. What is governance? Policies and processes by which corporation is controlled and directed. Govern karna, how to govern, how to supervise. It's supervision, governance, how to supervise. There has to be a boundary of policies and processes, rules and regulations within which you will take your decisions to run the company or corporation, and you have to abide by the policies and procedures. So that is the governance. What are ethics? What are ethics? Must have heard this term ethics or morals or value. Yeah, ethics, behavior. Okay, okay, rules, manners, values, core values, behavior, moral. Okay, yeah. So ethics is what? They are the principles governing right or wrong behavior. What is right, what is wrong. The principle which govern this, what is right, what is wrong, that is called ethics or morals or values. They are the same terms, but there is a thin line difference where to use these words. See, morals, ethics, they are the same. Values, they are the same. Right? Morals, again, they are the principles governing right or wrong behavior, but there is a thin line difference between morals and ethics. Moral. When it comes to individuals' behavior, that is called moral or immoral. When it comes to behavior or action at the workplace, that is called ethics, ethical or unethical. Right? This is a thin line difference. Both are principles governing right or wrong behavior, but one, when it comes to the action taken when it comes to individual behavior, they're called morals. When it comes to action taken at workplace, that is called ethics, ethical or unethical. For example, if I say in our society, in Hindu religion, second marriage or having an extramarital affair, if somebody has that, that is an action or behavior at individual level. So that will be called immoral behavior. Cheating at the workplace, cheating in the examination, that is the example of ethical or unethical behavior. Cheating is unethical. Where it was done, when it comes to action at the workplace. So ethics would be used for actions taken in the corporations, in the organizations, in the offices, or any workplace, your institution, education institution. Action taken there would be ethical, considered ethical or unethical. Action taken in your individual's life, that would be moral or immoral. That is the thin line difference, knowing that. So when it comes to governance and ethics, in long run, ethical behavior has a positive impact on companies' performance. Ultimately, see, you can with the degrees, with the money, if you have n number of degrees with you, have n number of money with you, you can just start a business, or with degrees you can reach to a certain position in the organization, right? But reaching that position is very, very easy, but maintaining, sustaining that position for long, that is very, very difficult. It's a practical thing which I'm telling you. Reaching that position with the help of degrees is very easy. Degree will just get you the seat, but to maintain, sustain the seat with dignity, you need ethics, you need morals. Then the role of morals or ethics that come into play, and they play a very, very major role. Ultimately, nobody wants immoral or unethical behavior from you. Your bosses in the organization, the owner, nobody would like to have a person who does unethical acts, who is not honest. Honesty is the best policy. Morals, we have learned that during our school times. We must have read the books on morals and moral education. Honesty is the best policy. We should speak the truth. So there are a lot of code of conducts, norms. They have been given by many books, but ultimately it's your conscience which tells you what is right, what is wrong, and what you should do, what you should not do. There are n number of code of conducts. There is a code of conduct for this profession also, for all the professions actually, for medical profession, for CS, CA, for every profession. When you go to school, in your school diary, at one page it is written the code of conduct, what you should do, what you should not do. When you go to college, there is a code of conduct you have to follow. There is a code of conduct at your home too, right? We follow code of conduct at our homes too, in our individual lives. So when it comes to the business organizations, won't it be applicable to us? Yes, they would be. There they have more value. Okay, so one person having good ethics and morals, uh, he is considered to be an asset to the organization. You must remember that. He is considered to be an asset. No company wants to leave that person who acts ethically and who follows the ethics in his life and at workplace too. That that creates the impression of a person, of a professional. So we must follow ethics, and ultimately I've told you it is your conscience which tells you what is right, what is wrong, what we should do, and we must listen to our conscience. Okay, so there is governance and ethics. With governance, ethics should also be there. First is World Youth Conference for Kindness. See, for kindness, that is the we have read the morals. One should be kind to everyone. So, World Youth Conference for Kindness, in order to impart critical competences. In order to impart critical competences, that is empathy, compassion, mindfulness, critical inquiry in global youth. Global youth. Why in youth? Because they are going to be the future of the country. So if youth is strong ethically and morally, the country has the good future. So to impart critical competencies, that is empathy, compassion, mindfulness, and critical inquiry in global youth, to inspire, empower, and enable them to transform themselves and build long-lasting peace in their communities, UNESCO MGIEP organized first World Youth Conference on Kindness in New Delhi, India, on the theme Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, Gandhi for the Contemporary World. So this was first World Youth Conference for Kindness was held by UNESCO. MGIEP means it's Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Education for Peace. MGEI MGIEP means Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Education for Peace. So UNESCO MGIEP organized first World Youth Conference for Kindness with the theme Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, the whole world is one family. Page number 70. Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam means the whole world is one family. Gandhi for contemporary world. This was the theme. This was to mark 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. This first World Youth Conference for Kindness was being organized by UNESCO MGIEP for kindness. Please do remember that. Okay. Next is page number 71. PIO cards to continue as valid travel documents up to March 2020. PIO cards, it's people of Indian origin. The people or persons of Indian origin, PIO cards along with valid passport, foreign passport will be considered for exit or or entry into India till 31st March 2020. Okay, PIO is persons of Indian origin. Cards, PIO cards, along with valid foreign passport, will be considered for exit or entry into India till 31st March 2020. See, these are the schemes based on ethics. Okay, everything is just not for the earning money or earning profits. So government thinks about the ethics also for for wellness and for welfare of society, what they should do. Okay, that is also important. So PIO cards to continue. Next is Cabinet approves promulgation of Prohibition of Electronic Cigarette Ordinance 2019. Cabinet, Union Cabinet that approved promulgation. What is promulgation? It is the declaration of prohibition. Prohibition means to stop. What? Of electronic cigarettes. Ordinance. Ordinance is official order 2019. So Union Cabinet chaired by Prime Minister Modi has approved promulgation of prohibition of electronic cigarette. इसमें क्या? What in that? That is production, manufacture, import, export, transport, sale, distribution, storage, and advertisement. These things are being prohibited by this order in 2019. This is done for the health and wellness of the country. E-cigarettes have been banned. Okay. If anybody goes or violates the rule or the order, then this will be considered as cognizable offense punishable. It would be considered as cognizable offense which is punishable. What is cognizable offense? It's an offense for which police can arrest one person without any warrant. Okay? Cognizable. If anybody violates this rule, this order of government of prohibition of e-cigarettes, if anybody violates this rule, this order, then he shall be, it will be a cognizable offense, punishable. Cognizable means police can arrest that person without any warrant, prior warrant. Okay, that is cognizable offense. It will be punishable. It is Forever 21 bankruptcy. E-cigarette is electronic cigarette. E means electronic. Wherever E is used, e-learning, e-logistic window, this means electronic. So electronic cigarettes are also there. So the government has put a ban on e-cigarettes. Okay, why? For the health and wellness of the country. Now, what are e-cigarettes? You please go to Google and check. I have never checked that. What is e-cigarette? That is not my area actually. To know, get information about e-cigarette. Next is Forever 21 bankruptcy. Forever 21, girls must have heard this company's name, Forever 21. It's a fashion chain, Forever 21. Yeah, Ritika. It's a fashion chain for Forever 21, and they have they have filed for bankruptcy protection because they had around 178 stores around the world. And sorry, they had more than 800 stores in 57 countries. Now they have filed for bankruptcy protection. So which fashion company has filed for international fashion company has filed for bankruptcy? It's Forever 21. If question comes, please remember that. So fashion chain, Forever 21. Just a line, one line is. Next is follow global standards of governance for global economic order. follow global standards of governance for global economic order. Now here, Aditya Birla Group Chairman Kumar Mangalam Birla, you must remember the name, Aditya Birla Group Chairman, who is he? Kumar Mangalam Birla. He said that with changing times, the core business philosophy is rapidly moving away from shareholders capitalism to stakeholders capitalism. Earlier, it used to be shareholders capitalism. Shareholders were still they are known as the owner of the company, so they were the most important ones. Now, what he says, Kumar Mangalam Birla, with the changing time, business philosophy has also changed. It has moved from shareholder capitalism to stakeholder capitalism. Now, stakeholders could be many shareholders. It would include shareholders, investors, customers, employees, and value chain parties. So, the business philosophy has expanded. Its thinking has expanded from shareholder capitalism to stakeholder capitalism. Stakeholder includes many people who have interest in the company directly or indirectly. They have invested in the company. They are the stakeholders, right? So Indian corporates need to hold themselves accountable to global standards of governance if India wishes to reshape global economic order. He said, Kumar Mangalam Birla said, he's actually giving the suggestions that Indian corporate means company, they need to hold themselves accountable to global standards of governance. If India wants to reshape global economic order, then Indian traders or the Indian corporates they have to be accountable in global standards of governance. They have to follow global standards of governance if they want to reshape uh, what they want to reshape global economic order. They have to follow global standards of governance. He further said that increasingly all the stakeholders are demanding a higher value, order, accountability, and additionally, the business will have to earn their license to operate in the society as a whole. Now, every stakeholder wants a value recognition in the organization. Times have changed drastically. Now, all the stakeholders, all the investors, direct or indirect, they want value recognition. They want accountability. And additionally, the businesses will have to earn their license to operate to the society as a whole. They have to earn the license. Earn the license means it's not the license taken for doing the business. It's making name for themselves. Okay, they have to earn that. As the ease of doing business improves, the way of doing business needs to change. Since doing business has become easy nowadays, ease of doing business proves the way of doing business needs to change. You have to change the way of doing business with the ease of doing business. Now, it's a famous line. If we want to make our mark on the world, it's a famous line. Quote actually, if we want to make our mark on the world, we have to be prepared for the world to leave its mark on us. So, if the statement comes, who said this, then it's Kumar Mangalam Birla. If we want to make our mark in the world, अगर आप दुनिया में अपना कुछ इम्पैक्ट छोड़ना चाहते हैं, we'll have to be prepared for the world to leave its mark on us. तो दुनिया, we should be prepared, हमको तैयार होना चाहिए कि दुनिया भी हमारे पर अपनी छाप छोड़ सके, ताकि हम दुनिया पे अपनी, हमको पहले दुनिया की जो छाप है, छाप मीन्स इम्प्रेशन, तो उसका मार्क है वो हम पे आना ज़रूरी है, so that we can also make a mark on the world. Okay, so these are all the talks of ethics actually. Next is Reliance Capital will no longer be in any lending business. Anil Ambani's business, you must be knowing that earlier its flagship Reliance Communication, it was shut 2 years back. Anil Ambani's Reliance Communication, that was shut 2 years back. Now there's another one, Reliance Capital. It has also Reliance Capital. He has decided to shut two lending arms by December 2019. Reliance Capital has two credit verticals: Reliance Commercial Finance, Reliance Home Finance. They are also closing down. So earlier it was Reliance Communication which got closed down. Now it's Reliance Capital, which has two branches, Commercial Finance and Home Finance. They are also shutting down. Okay, so here we complete this. This was the political affairs. Now you come back to where we had left. It is page number 47. It's financial affairs. Come to page number 47. Today we will be finishing this subject of current affairs. From next class onwards, we'll be taking communication part, where we'll be doing the listening abilities, oral communication, written communication. We'll be taking up that. Okay. I will be giving some activities to you. Yeah. Have you opened page 47? Page number 47? Yeah. Okay. Page number 47. That is financial affairs. Current development in banking. Brief about RBI. RBI, we have already talked about RBI when it was established. It was established on April 1, 1935. Initially, it was established in Calcutta, but permanently moved to Mumbai in 1937. And it was privately owned, but after nationalization in 49, it became fully owned by Government of India. Now there are certain main functions of RBI. Just go through them, just the title heads. Then RBI, come to page number 48. RBI has 27 regional offices. Mark that. Next is announcement in Union Budget 2020. Before this pandemic, this Union Budget was brought. So what were the announcements made in Union Budget 2020? In Union Budget 2020, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman, must remember the name of Minister of Finance and Minister of Corporate Affairs. She announced the following related to financial sectors. There were some announcements relating to financial sectors. First is for PSB, its public sector banks. There are some reforms, governance reforms to be carried out to bring in transparency and greater professionalism in PSBs. What are PSBs? Public sector banks. Some certain reforms were introduced to bring transparency and greater professionalism in PSBs. Few PSBs were encouraged. Page number 48. Few PSBs were encouraged to approach to capital market to raise money from the public. Next is Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation, DICGC. Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation has been permitted to increase deposit insurance coverage for a depositor, which is now 1 lakh to 5 lakh per depositor. Okay. Some deposit insurance coverage were announced for depositor. It's 1 lakh to 5 lakh now per depositor. Third is scheduled commercial banks health under monitoring through a robust mechanism keeping depositors' money safe. Scheduled commercial banks Their health is under monitoring through robust mechanism, but they have kept depositors' money safe. Page number 49. Cooperative banks will be strengthened by amending banking regulation for increasing professionalism, enabling access to capital, improving governance, and oversight for sound banking through RBI. Cooperative banks, again, they will be strengthened by amending some banking regulations. They will be allowed to encourage to go to the capital market to raise money from the public. DICGC, just there the full form is given. Do not waste time in unnecessary things. Everything is given in the study material. Next is limit for NBFCs, non-banking financial companies. Limit for NBFCs to be eligible for debt recovery under securitization and reconstruction of financial assets and enforcement of security interest. SARFAESI, SARFAESI. The full form is given. The limit for NBFCs to be eligible for debt recovering, that is proposed to be reduced from 500 crores to asset size 100 crores or loan size from existing 1 crore to 50 lakhs. So limit for NBFCs, non-banking financial companies, to be eligible for debt recovery, that means the loan which has been given to them, the limit has been reduced for them from 500 crore to asset size 100 crores and loan size 1 crore to 50 crores, reduced to 100 crores and 50 lakhs. Okay. Next is to meet the need for greater private capital. It is proposed to sell balance holding of Government of India IDBI Bank to private, retail and institutional investors through the stock exchange. To meet the need of greater private capital. What is private capital? Money provided to private people as loan for their businesses. That is private capital. To meet the need for greater private capital needed by private individuals, it is proposed to sell balance holding of Government of India IDBI Bank by the government to meet need for greater private capital. Okay. Next is financial market. Financial market Union Budget 2020. What has been done for financial markets? It is first is deepening bond market. Deepening means bond is what? What is bond? Do you understand bond? Yeah. It is an instrument of indebtedness. If you have taken loan, on the basis of these bonds, by issuing these bonds, you can take money, you can get money on credit basis as a debt. So instead, against this debt, against the money which the company or the government takes from the public, instrument of debt, one security paper is being given, that is called bond actually. So deepening bond market, and this was to attract. Deepening means increasing bond market. What is bond? It's a type of instrument of indebtedness. Certain special categories of government securities to be opened fully for non-resident Indians investors also. So to attract money, to attract foreign exchange, certain specified categories of government securities to be opened fully for NRIs and non-resident investors. Then FPI limit in corporate bonds increased to 15% from 9% of its outstanding stock. FPI is what? Foreign portfolio investment. So foreign portfolio investment, foreign investment limit in corporate bonds that has been increased to 15%. Earlier it was 9%. This was just to attract the foreign investment in Indian securities to get the foreign exchange. Second is new legislation to be formulated for laying down a mechanism for netting of financial contracts. New legislation, what is legislation? It is law. New law to be formulated for laying down mechanism for netting off. Net karna, how, netting off financial contracts. One country has a financial contract with another country. If one is not in a position to pay off, then they try to net off the financial contract. That you have one financial contract, we have one financial contract. You are not able to pay that the amount, so we'll net off the amount that is due from your side. That will be net off in the contract which you have here in this country. So two countries having financial contracts, they can net off. Yes, it's a kind of settlement. Good. Next is scope of credit default swaps to expand. Credit default. One country does credit default, another country also does, so they just swap. That is scope of this swap that is to be expanded. Next is debt-based exchange traded ETF, exchange traded fund, expanded by new debt ETF consisting primarily of government securities to give attractive access to retail investors, pension funds, and long-term investors. Next is a partial credit guarantee scheme for NBFC. For NBFC, non-banking financial companies, a partial credit guarantee scheme has been introduced to address their liquidity constraints. Partial credit guarantee scheme for NBFC has been introduced to address their liquidity constraints. Liquidity means cash constraints, cash limitations, liquidity. Okay. Next is mega bank merger. It is important, mega bank merger. Many public sector banks, they have been merged into each other. So you just need to see the table on page number 50. That will explain the whole picture. The anchor bank, the amalgamating bank, PSB ranked by size. So 10 big public sector banks have been merged into 4. First line, please mark that. 10 big public sector on page number 49. First line, 10 big public sector banks PSBs have been merged into 4. 10 बड़े बैंक 4 अभी बन गए हैं. India will have now 12 PSBs from 27 in 2017. The number was 27. Now it is 12 after this merger. So the merger picture is given in the table given on page number 50. Please look at that. Anchor Bank, PNB, which two banks have been amalgamated into PNB? It's OBC, Oriental Bank of Commerce, United Bank of India. And the rank is second, they have become second largest. Next is Canara Bank. Which bank has amalgamated into that? Syndicate Bank. Their rank is fourth largest. Then UBI, Union Bank of India, Andhra and Corporation Bank have been amalgamated into that. It is fifth largest now. Indian Bank and Allahabad Bank has been amalgamated into Indian Bank. The rank is seventh largest. Just look at, just read this table. This will explain the whole picture. Yeah, the motive behind the merger of PSBs, next line, the purpose or the motive or the objective behind merger of these PSBs are to enhance their capacity to increase credit. Banks with a strong national presence and international reach. Reduction in lending cost. Improve ability to raise market resources. What was the motive behind merger of these major PSBs? That is to enhance their capacity to increase credit, to raise market funds from the market, to feel their presence, make their presence felt, and international reach. That was the motive behind. This is a major, the major thing that has happened in 2020. Okay, mega bank merger. This may come. Next is revision in norms for concurrent audit system of banks. The RBI has revised the norms for concurrent audit system of banks. Concurrent means happening at the same time. Now the just mark one line. It first three lines, they are important. Reserve Bank has revised norms for concurrent audit system of banks. It aims at shortening the interval between transaction and its independent examination. The purpose is to shorten the interval between happening of a transaction and its independent examination or the audit. Earlier, the gap was too long. So the person who are accountable for all these faults or the scams, it was not easy to catch hold of them. So this gap has been shortened. This was that's why RBI has revised the norms for concurrent audit system of banks. Next, come to banning of unregulated deposit schemes. The Parliament approved the banning of unregulated means uncontrolled, deposit schemes bill 2019. Why? This is a mechanism to ban unregulated deposit scheme and protect interest of the depositors. To protect the interest of depositors, Parliament approved banning of unregulated deposit schemes bill 2019. That one line is enough for you. State Bank SBI revised service charges with effect from October 1, 2019. Now, SBI has revised service charges for deposits and withdrawals from October 1, 2019. You have to, this is service charges regarding to maintaining minimum balance, then doing this RTGS and NEFT transactions. These are the service charges related to that. Just please give a reading to this. We cannot discuss each and every line here. So they have revised charges with effect from October 1, 2019. This is regarding maintaining minimum balances with the banks and the transactions we do through NEFT and RTGS. So how much is the amount, how much is the rate? You can go through that. Next is RBI restricts PMC banks operations. What is PMC bank? It's Punjab and Maharashtra's cooperative bank. Now RBI has put a ban on its transactions relating to lending and withdrawals. This is for 6 months. RBI has put a ban on the operations of Punjab and Maharashtra cooperative bank for 6 months relating to the lending and withdrawals by customers. Okay. Next is ICICI Bank to open 450 new branches. Now ICICI Bank on September 23, 2019, ICICI Bank announced its expansion by adding 450 new branches in financial year 2020. Now they have also already crossed the milestone of having 5,000 branches across the country. Okay, they have now more than 5,000 branches across the country. Come to page number 53. Current development in finance or stock market. First is disinvestment in LIC. On disinvestment finance, this is a part of Union Budget 2020. What we are discussing is Union Budget 2020. Under that, current development in finance or stock market. On disinvestment, Finance Minister in her Union Budget 2020 speech announced to sell a part of its holding in LIC by way of initial public offer. A part of holding in LIC of the government has announced to sell a part of it by way of initial public offer. Next is tax concession for foreign investment. Yes, to attract foreign currency, foreign investment, some concessions have been given in order to incentivize investment by sovereign wealth fund of foreign government in the priority sector. Union Budget 2020 proposed to grant 100% tax exemption to the interest and dividend income in respect of investment made in infrastructure and other notified sectors before 31st March 24. Government has announced 100% tax exemption to foreign national if they invest in infrastructure and other notified sectors before 31st March 2024. They will get 100% tax exemption on the interest, dividend and capital gain income. Next is abolition of dividend distribution tax DDT and concessional corporate tax. Abolition means it has been removed permanently. Abolition of DDT and concessional corporate tax in order to increase attractiveness of Indian equity market and to provide relief to large class of investors. Union Budget 2020 has proposed to remove DDT, dividend distribution tax. See earlier what it was, the scene was like that, the company who is paying dividend, they too had to pay tax on the dividend income, and the receiver, the shareholder who is receiving the dividend, they also had to pay the tax on this income. Now, so companies, they were reluctant to pay dividend. They became very reluctant that they will not pay dividend, they will not announce the dividend income for shareholders. So to protect them and to uh, attract the investment in corporates, what government has done, that this dividend income will be taxed at the hands of recipients of dividend only. Now the corporates, companies will not have to pay the dividend tax on dividend income. What is dividend? It is the distribution of profits basically done by the company, and it's an income for the shareholders, dividend payment. So companies too had to pay tax on that, then recipients too had to pay the tax. Now what government has done to attract investors in the corporate sectors, dividend income, and to make dividend income to make the investors get more income by way of dividend. What they have done, they have just there is abolition, or they have removed this provision that the corporators, they will not have to pay the tax or dividend. They can freely distribute the dividend. It is only the recipient who will have to pay the tax on dividend income. Otherwise, there was a cascading effect. Dividend tax on tax. This was the scene, right? Then reduction of corporate tax rates. I would like you to please go through this paragraph, reduction of corporate tax rates. Since we cannot go through each and every line, so I would like to you please read at your end, and if there is any difficulty, I would definitely explain before I end the session. The important thing which has taken place now is MSME. I wanted to discuss with you. MSME, micro, small, medium enterprises. The new changes which have come into effect from June 1, 2020. First of all, the definition of MSME was, there is no page number, I am just telling you this. You can check with Google also. The information I am giving is about MSME. Micro, small, medium enterprises. They are a part of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan economic package. MSME now is a part of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan economic package. First of all, there is a change in the definition of MSME. After this COVID-19, to revive the economy, to make the small and this micro and medium entrepreneurs to get business to them, to make money, what they have done, and to promote Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, Make in India Abhiyan drive, to promote that, to encourage that, certain reforms have been made, and especially after COVID-19, since this is the most affected industry, and this industry MSME, that contributes 29% to Indian GDP. Please remember that MSMEs contribute 29% to Indian GDP. It has a major contribution to our GDP. So to protect and to encourage and to make it a part of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, to encourage Make in India, this definition of MSME has been changed. It's from the definition, there were words in investment in plant and machinery. Now it has been done investment and annual turnover. This investment in plant and machinery word has been removed, and annual turnover word has been inserted in the definition. Now, in May 2000, Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman, she announced some provisions for MSMEs, the turnover and the investment part portion was given. Again, this has been changed on June 1, 2020. This is the latest change made by Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi. The latest change in the definition on June 1, 2020, which would come into effect from July 2020. This to be called a micro or a small or a medium enterprise, the minimum investment should be 1 crore for micro and turnover should be 5 crores. To get the benefit of MSME, for micro, investment should be 1 crore, turnover should be 5 crores. If you want to write, or there's in the Google, it's everything is there, you can check with that. Since this is the latest, so I just wanted to share it with you guys. For small, investment should be 10 crore, turnover should be 50 crores. To be called a medium enterprise, investment should be 50 crores, turnover should be 250 crores. To get the benefit given to MSMEs, these changes have been incorporated now. First of all, the definition has been changed. Investment in plant and machinery has been changed to investment and annual turnover. So investment, for to be called to get the benefit of a micro, investment has to be 1 crore, turnover should be 5 crores. To get the benefit of small enterprise, investment has to be 10 crores, turnover should be 50 crores. To get the benefit of medium enterprise, investment should be 50 crores and turnover should be 250 crores. This is with effect from July 2020. MSMEs would get the benefit. This was announced on June 1, 2020 by Prime Minister Mr. Modi. Another change, there were earlier two sectors, manufacturing and service sector in MSMEs. Now there will be no difference, they'll be considered as one. Earlier there were two sectors in MSMEs. One was manufacturing, production and manufacturing. Another was service sector. Now there will be no difference. These will be considered as one. MSME contribute 29% of India's GDP and half of exports. So by doing this, MSMEs would get the benefit, and there will be a boost in the production in Make in India products also. Just to give the boost to Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, these changes have been brought. The latest change, change in the definition was done on June 1, 2020. This will come into effect from July 2020. Right? So here today we end the this subject, current affairs. Yes, bank. Yeah, you have to keep yourself updated. Banking sector, what happened in banking, the merger of banks, then yes, banks crisis. Yeah, you have to keep yourself updated. So from now, next lecture, we'll be starting communication part. Okay, start reading, keep yourself updated, do watch news channels, do read business papers. For world news, I told you WION and BBC are the best channels, which I feel that like that. If you want to see another channel, it's up to you. WION and BBC are the best channels for world news. For domestic, it is the Z, which I prefer to watch, the DNA 9 to 9:30 or the newspapers. They are the best source of information. So we'll meet day after tomorrow with a new thing, communication. Okay, thank you so much. Stay safe. Have a good day. Thanks a lot for being there. Thank you. Bye.